together something when we did that, and I think it's on my calendar.
Okay. I'd like to call the January 3rd, 2022 meeting of the City Council for the City of Lake City. If everyone would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and standing for the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for your many blessings. Thank you for allowing us to meet at the beginning of this year, and hopefully this will be a better year for our citizens and our first responders and our troops. We ask that you continue to bless this community and look after us, and what we do is pleasing in your eyes. In your name we pray. Amen. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hill,
Here.
Mr. Jefferson,
Here.
Mr. Sampson,
Here.
Mayor Witt,
Here.
Mr. Dial,
Here.
Mr. Coberline,
Here.
Chief Butler.
Here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the Lake City Council has opened its public meetings since 1968. The city code has prohibited any person from making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or becoming boisterous when addressing the city council. Yelling and making audible comments from the audience constitutes boisterous conduct. Such conduct will not be tolerated. There is only one approved manner of addressing the council, that is to be recognized and then speak to the podium. We don't have any minutes. Approval of the agenda. The city manager talked about removing item 16, so we can look into it a little further. So with that amendment, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved, Mayor.
Your second. Second. Motion second to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, persons wishing to address council, Mr. Glenn L. Bowden.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Glenn L. Bowden, 1156 Northeast Bascom Norris Drive. Thank you for allowing me to stand before you tonight, Mr. Mayor and Council. Like you said in your prayer, I hope that this year becomes a better year, not only for the city, but for the citizens of the city in particular, those who are suffering from gun violence and other issues in our community. And that we should be mindful that the COVID scare is not gone. In fact, it's starting to raise its head again. While not as many people dying, not as many people in the hospital, but people still getting sick. And I think we should be very mindful of that and encourage the citizens of Lake City to mask up when they're around other people. If they don't want to let themselves, that's business. But hiding in around people around other people, I think it's prudent that takes place. So, Ms. Mayor, you got two things. I'm going to wait to speak to hour 15 later. I want to encourage you, Mr. Mayor. You've been promising over the past year a workshop to talk about the downtown district, the CRA funding, and the workshops. I hope that this year we'll have more action and less promises. You said that you're going to come up with some workshops, so you plan on doing that in the very near future?
I spoke to Mr. Dow today, and we're going to set a workshop up for the funds so we can start doing the projects that we need to do.
And that's going to take place within the next
Few weeks.
Okay.
That's what we said. We do it in January.
January, good. All right. Thank you, man. That's all I got this time.
Okay. Ms. Coker.
Good evening. B. Coker, 636 Southeast Bear Drive, Lake City, Florida. I really wanted to welcome Mr. Dowell into the position and ask the council to consider allowing Mr. Dowell's position to identify some opportunities where there is or has been demonstrated that there is some need for clarification with regard to the separation of power between the council person and the city manager. I wasn't able to be present during the interview session for the city manager. However, I was able to listen to the interviews online. And so I paid special attention to one of the questions that was posed to the city manager candidates with regard to how they would work with the council. And it seemed in need of clarification or just an opportunity for us to clarify with the candidates that there is a separation of power between the council members and the city manager. That the council members' role was not to interfere with the administration. And I think that it's especially important, being that Mr. Dow is serving as interim and he has worked so closely with administration on the other end of being non-city manager. And it's an opportunity for him to assist the council in clarifying where there's a need for there to be just a separation. So that as we consider a permanent candidate or a permanent city manager replacement, we've already addressed some of those issues because we have had them in the past. And if we're going to start off on the right foot this year, one of the opportunities exists to go ahead and just clarify the separation of power between the city manager and the city council person to make sure we're doing things in accordance with the charter. I do encourage you to give Mr. Dow some leeway to be able to identify where there's some area that requires clarification in that regard. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have at this time. No consent agenda presentations. We have Mr. David Kraus, County Manager.
Mr. Mayor, City Council members, thank you very much for letting me speak today. I'll keep it very short. Happy New Year. Glad to see you all here. Richardson Community Center. Several years back in a joint meeting, there was a vote taken in which the Richardson Community Center would be deeded over to the county. We proceeded with title search. The company that was doing them didn't do them, and so it languished. We did finally get another firm involved that has now done and completed most of the title searches. And so we know in the meantime that the city has applied for a CDBG grant. So I guess we wanted to make sure that we were all still going in the same direction and that if possible, we could then do an interlocal agreement that basically just memorializes that upon completion of the CDBG grant, we're still going to proceed with the transfer of the title.
Okay. Anybody have any questions, comments? I still agree that that's what we need to do.
Is there, Mr. Mayor, is there something we need to do as far as like have the county attorney and the city attorney work together for some kind of agreement? Is that what the recommendation would be, or?
That's what I would recommend.
Okay. Let the consensus of council to Mr. Caroline, give it Mr. Foreman. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you for coming. Okay, and the old business, we discussion possible action, fire pension board appointee, and the other, discussion possible action, planning zoning board, we, need people on both of those. I'm still trying to find somebody for the, fire pension that I think's qualified. But, just get with the clerk or the city manager and let us know if you got any. Under new business, we have an ordinance, city council ordinance number 2021-2196 on first reading. Mr. Caroline, would you read that by title?
An ordinance of the City of Lake City, Florida, amending the text of the City of Lake City Land Development Regulations as amended pursuant to an application LDR 21-05 by the City Council, providing for amending section 4.14.3 titled Permitted Accessory Uses and Structures by revising regulations pertaining to the use of public rights of way for outdoor seating by restaurants and other businesses within the quote C-CBD close quote commercial central business district, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date, period.
Okay, need to move to adoption of ordinance number 2021-2196. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion for adoption of City Council Ordinance number 2021-2196 on the first reading.
So,
Been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Can we please call the roll?
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson.
Yes.
Mayor Witten.
Yes. And next, we have City Council Ordinance number 2213. On first reading, Mr. Carolina, would you read that by title?
An ordinance of the City of Lake City, Florida, amending the city code to add a new section numbered 86-110.17 to Article 3 of Chapter 86, which provides for the permanent closing, vacating, and abandoning of that portion of Laurel Lane lying between Block 17 and 18 of McFarland Park subdivision and east of Southwest Montgomery Avenue of McFarland Park subdivision, a subdivision as per the plat thereof and recorded in Plat Book 423 at page 604 of the Public Records of Columbia County, Florida. Finding that the roadway was abandoned by the city, finding that the closing of the roadway will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, finding that it is in the best interest of the city and for the general welfare of its citizens to close the roadway, providing for the reservation of utility easements, providing for the repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, providing for inclusion into the city code, and providing for an effective date, period.
So we're moving to adoption of ordinance 2022-2213. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, move for the adoption of ordinance number 2022-2213 on its first read.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Cameron, call the roll, please.
Mr. Jefferson.
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mayor Witten.
Yes. Okay, next is resolution, item 6, City Council Resolution 2021-175. Mr. Copeland, read that by title.
A resolution of City Council of City Lake City, Florida, authorizing the execution of an agreement with American Sign Language Services Corporation to provide professional interpreting services for video remote interpreting requests and providing for an effective date, period.
Is there a motion that the City Council Resolution number 2021-175?
Mr. Mayor, move for the approval of resolution number 2021-175.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please call the roll, please.
Mr. Jefferson,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mayor Witten.
Yes. Okay. Item 7 is City Council Resolution 2021-187. Mr. Copeland, could you read that by title?
A resolution of City Council of City Lake City, Florida, authorizing the execution of change order number 1 to the contract between the city and Legacy Water Group LLC, providing for the installation of the West Gravity Sewer System at the Interstate 75 and State Road 47 interchange as additional work to the initial agreement, providing for the additional cost not to exceed $139,000.00, and providing for an effective date, period.
Is there a motion that the City Council Resolution 2021-187?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion for approval of City Council Resolution 2021-187.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Can we call the roll, please?
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson,
Yes.
Mayor Witten.
Yes. Item 8, City Council Resolution 2021-190. Mr. Copeland, would you read that by title?
A resolution of City Council of City Lake City, Florida, authorizing the execution of change order number 2 to the contract between the city and SGS Contracting Services Incorporated, providing for additional services to be performed at the St. Margaret's wastewater treatment facility, providing for the replacement of the north aeration basin drain valves, providing for additional grit removal, providing for an extension of 90 days to both the project's substantial completion date and the project final payment date, and providing for an additional cost not to exceed $587,050.20, period.
Is there a motion that the City Council Resolution number 2021-190?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion for approval of City Council Resolution number 2021-190.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Can we call the roll, please?
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mayor Whit.
Yes. Number 9 is City Council Resolution 2021-191. Mr. Kirkland, read that by title.
A resolution of the City Council of City Lake City, Florida, authorizing the execution of the Third Judicial Circuit Mutual Aid Agreement between municipalities and sheriffs of counties located in the Third Judicial Circuit of Florida through the Lake City Police Department, period.
Is there a motion on the City Council Resolution 2021-191?
Mr. Mayor, move for the approval of resolution number 2021-191.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Jefferson,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mayor Whit.
Item 10, City Council Resolution 2022-001. Read that by title.
A resolution of City Council of City Lake City, Florida, authorizing the execution of the Voluntary Cooperation and Operational Assistance Mutual Aid Agreement with the Columbia County Sheriff's Office and providing for an effective date, period.
Is there a motion of the City Council Resolution 2022-001?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion for approval of City Council Resolution 2022-001.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Tammy, call the roll, please.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mayor Whit.
Yes. Okay, item 11, City Council Resolution 2022-002. Mr. Copeland, would you read that by title?
A resolution of City Council of City Lake City, Florida, authorizing the execution of a memorandum of understanding with Another Way Incorporated Domestic Violence and Rape Crisis Center through the Lake City Police Department to coordinate services to victims and survivors of domestic violence, period.
Is there a motion as the City Council Resolution 2022-002?
Mr. Mayor, move for the approval of resolution number 2022-002.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Tammy, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Jefferson,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mayor Whit.
Yes. Item 12, the City Council Resolution 2022-003. Mr. Copeland, would you read that by title?
A resolution of City Council of City Lake City, Florida, authorizing the execution of a memorandum of understanding with Another Way Incorporated Domestic Violence and Rape Crisis Center through the Lake City Police Department to coordinate services that are provided to adult and adolescent victims and survivors of rape, period.
Okay, is there a motion that City Council Resolution 2022-003?
Mr. Mayor, move for the approval of resolution number 2022-003.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Tammy, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Jefferson,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mayor Whit.
Yes. Item 13, City Council Resolution 2022-004. Mr. Copeland, would you read that by title?
A resolution of City Council of City Lake City, Florida, appointing members to the Board of Adjustment in accordance with ordinance 2021-2201, providing for the terms of offices of the Board of Adjustment to run concurrently with the terms of offices of the Planning and Zoning Board, and providing for an effective date, period.
Is there a motion on the City Council Resolution 2022-004?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion for approval of City Council Resolution 2022-004.
I second.
The motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Tammy, would you call the roll?
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mayor Whit.
Yes. Item 14, City Council Resolution number 2022-006. Mr. Copeland, would you read that by title?
A resolution of City Council of City Lake City, Florida, authorizing a salary adjustment of the interim city manager Paul Dow, providing for a salary adjustment in the equivalent of $120,000.00 per fiscal year, and providing for an effective date, period.
Is there a motion on the City Council Resolution 2022-006?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion for approval of City Council Resolution 2022-006.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson,
Yes.
Mayor Whit.
Yes. Okay, other items, discussion of possible action, camera surveillance regarding gun violence in the community. Mr. Bowden, did you want to speak at this time?
Mr. Mayor, Council, you remember at the last meeting, in 2021, I stood before you and we talked about gun violence, and we did commit to, taking some action towards addressing the issue. It's a sad day, Mr. Mayor, that, from the time I left home to the time I got here, I talked to the police chief about what my daughter thought she observed in front of her house the day that police officers out there were putting down evidence markers. So she thought it had been a shooting, but so it was not a shooting. It was someone shooting up in there during New Year's. It's a sad day in my community where I grew up that fireworks on New Year was a regular occurrence. Nobody concerned about it. But now when you go off the railroad track, you hear fireworks, you don't know whether you're supposed to duck, get on the floor, or hide. And that's a sad time. I'm glad you're trying to address that. But just since that time, I get a text from my daughter. She lived near the intersection of Alverdeen and Martin Luther King. Just within the last 30 minutes, someone been shot in the leg, according to the report. I don't have any shot in the leg, in the toe, or shot nowhere. That's another shooting that's taking place in North Lake City. So I do think that cameras are necessary, but in particular, I'm of the opinion that cameras should be considered, and I know citizens can't get in the position of advocating where to put cameras. But cameras always got to be secret. Sometimes cameras act as a deterrent. You know, that's why you see people that surveillance camera and let people know something going on. And I do think that Young's Park, Allen Park, and Richardson Community Center, 3 places where cameras are considered to be placed. But those are places historically we've been having some violence, there've been some issues at those areas, so it would make sense to me that if you're going to put up cameras for the purpose of prevention and for deterrent, that those should be 3 of the first areas you would consider. You know, if someone thought it was important enough to place a camera in Ola Park near the monument to prevent it from being damaged or whatever the purpose was, then I'm sure that putting cameras at those 3 locations, other locations, should not be an issue that should cost, and where cost should be an issue. Over in Hamilton County, Mr. Mayor, there was a murder 3 or 4 years ago, I think. Young man was murdered. I went over there for Thanksgiving and I stopped a couple of stores. I see this post. They actually offered him $50,000 of reward just for information that will lead to the arrest and conviction of that person. I have to be of the opinion that if the city or police department or a combination of community interests will come up with a reward fund, it don't have to be $50,000. I mean, we got 3 on some aware in the last 6 months. It could be a fund where you offer an amount to lead to the arrest and conviction of any of those unsolved murders that still exist. Not put a name on in the individual, because as you said, we're gonna offer a reward for Jim Jones, that Mary Sue would have a problem because her son is not listed. A reward that will lead to the arrest conviction for information on any of those unsolved murders within the city of Lake City, for that matter, within the county of Columbia County. The only other point I want to raise, Mayor, and this is probably for your benefit as well for the police chief. Often I complain about the actions of police officers. Other people do too. But that doesn't mean I don't support the police officer. You know, right now I'm glad to know that they're down by my daughter's house. I started to leave and go backwards since she told me someone shot me, everybody was there. But the issue is this: because people complain does not suggest, should not suggest to the police department or the sheriff department that we don't want patrolling, we don't want security. We want everything everybody's, we want the same thing that people want at Walmart during Christmas. They want to be able to walk out the store with the packages and feel safe. We want to be able to do the same thing in North Lake City without complaining. Because I'm not going to stop complaining if I see some police brutality. I'm not going to make it up. I'm not going to manufacture it. But if I see it, I record it, I'm going to talk about it. And that should not give the police officers or the sheriff department the opinion that, well, they just complain all the time. So they got so much to say, we're not going down there. That's the wrong view. We pay taxes. We live. I was born and raised in North Lake City. I want to live 3 locations. I'm born in the quarters at the intersection of 100 of Marion Street. I lived on Furnace Street, Broadway, and on Baskin Nards. Within a 2-mile radius. That's the only place I ever lived in Lake City. So I'm very aware of Lake City from the time I was born to the time now, and I see the change. And the change got to be total community, but we cannot act as if, well, if we don't get the help from the community, law enforcement can't, the hands are tied. That's not true. There are crimes being solved every day without the help of the community. I read in the paper yesterday, I think, where the sheriff in Duval County asked for some additional funding. Tony Rock, the chief of police over in Gainesville, same kind of problem, asked for additional funding. So we do know that cops on the street make a difference. More money makes a difference. Got to put the money where your mouth is. And because the community is not standing up, does not mean law enforcement shouldn't stand up. So I applaud what you're doing. I hope that there be some favorable consideration of that, but that should not be the answer, but just the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you. I did want this on the agenda, and like Mr. Bowden said the other day, we don't want to become Jacksonville. I was watching the news this morning. I think there was 4 shootings last night in Jacksonville, 4 or 5. I've talked to Chief Butler. He's talked with our IT Director, Matt, and I've talked to Mr. Dial. I think the cameras are a great idea, and my recommendation is that they all get together and look into what the cost is. I think Matt would be needed to do that and to run the system. Chief, we have the system already. It's just putting the cameras in. Is that correct?
Actually, Mayor, currently the systems that the city has, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, they're older systems and they're not tied in through 2 or 3 different systems. Actually, all of them are old. IT is going to be purchasing an enterprise system through Motorola, so we can tie everything in together. It'll give the police department, so we don't have to contact IT in the middle of the night to come in and try and pull video. We'll be able to do it ourselves. And we found the quality of the video, because the cameras are so old, especially at night, it's almost useless. We can barely tell what's going on, never mind trying to identify someone. So Matt is working with Motorola Solutions to get a camera system that's expandable. So as time goes on, if there's other areas that we need to incorporate into the network, we'll be able to. But we are going to start with our existing systems in the parks, the city park, City Hall, the new City Hall facilities, the public safety building. And actually, I just talked with our rep from Motorola today, and I told him the urgency of starting to get us numbers so we can bring a recommendation to the council.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
so I believe in our last budget, we budgeted some money to these camera systems, I think about 200,000. So hopefully that'll defray quite a bit of the cost. I know some of the cameras in place, like the ones at Young's Park currently, just aren't even able to be looked at, I don't think. So I think that would be a big first step. And I look forward to seeing how big of an impact we'll have with those license plate readers off the interstate and the other ones that are coming. I think that's going to be a big step too to help out.
And we do want to move forward with this and get the cameras started out there and make it it don't have to all be done overnight, but we want to get started and put it in the key areas and in the parks and where we have our buildings and things, and get it going. And it is a community problem, and we need to work as a community. We need to get our civic organizations, our churches, our people, and all to look at this and see what we got, our schools. Everybody's gonna have to work together, and we are gonna have to put more money toward law enforcement to make it work, and hopefully we can get a handle on it somewhat and get going the other direction. So I'd like a motion that we just get that started.
Do we need a motion with it already being in the budget?
Do we need a motion?
Not to proceed, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, then we're good. All right. We took item 16 off the agenda, so other than that, comments of council.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. First of all, who authorized the camera to be put on your monument? Who monitors it? Who monitors that camera? And secondly, I'm glad that the sheriff is here and Chief Butler is here. We also have a problem with speeding through the neighborhood. These guys with these Dodge Chargers, whatever they are, they use the neighborhood for a racetrack. And something needs to be done about it. I mean, gun violence, something needs to be done about that. We got to start somewhere. And these guys, they run through the neighborhood like, you know, it's okay. And it's not okay. So something needs to be done about it.
Okay, thank you. All right. I appreciate everybody coming out in the cold. We'll be adjourned.